What if one of history's greatest mysteries wasn't written in some complex code, but was actually hidden in plain sight for, get this, 4,000 years? Today, we're going to explore a secret plan with clues that were scattered across millennia of text, all leading to a conclusion that almost no one saw coming. Now, this isn't just some hypothetical question. We're looking at a text that claims this is exactly what happened. It lays out this divine promise that started with a single, really cryptic clue way back in the Garden of Eden. And that one clue kicked off a 4,000-year-long puzzle that, well, humanity's been trying to solve ever since. All right, so our story begins like a lot of stories do, right at the very start. The source text points us to this obscure promise that was made in Eden. And this one sentence. This was the first clue. But it was followed by a very, very long silence. So according to the source, that first clue was this promise that a seed of the woman would one day come and bruise the serpent's head. And for thousands of years, that was it. That's all they had. The text describes it as a faint and glimmering light in just immense darkness. I mean, can you imagine an entire civilization holding on to that one cryptic phrase, just waiting in total suspense for the next piece of the puzzle? That's how long the world waited. 2,000 years. Let that sink in. To put that into perspective, that's roughly the time between the Roman Empire and us, right now. And for that entire stretch of history, humanity had nothing more to go on. According to the text, it's an almost unimaginable amount of time to hold onto a single, faint hope before the next clue even showed up. So after 2,000 years of total silence, the clues finally started coming again. But this next phase of the mystery, it wasn't a straight line to the answer. Not even close. The source describes it as a trail of false starts, this long, frustrating cycle of hope getting built up, only to be followed by bitter disappointment. This timeline really puts the scale of all that waiting into perspective. Just look at the gaps here. After that very first clue, there's a 2,000-year wait until Abraham is told that his seed is going to bless all nations. So hope surges. Then another 500 years until Moses, a great deliverer. Then 400 more years to the kingdom under David and Solomon. Each and every time, it looked like, okay, this is it. The answer has arrived. But the source argues these were all just foreshadows, previews, not the final fulfillment. And this quote right here from his own followers, wow, it just captures their utter despair. After 4,000 years, they were convinced the answer had finally come in the person of Jesus. They trusted he was the one. And then he was executed. At the most critical moment you could possibly imagine, the trail didn't just go cold, it looked like it had ended in a complete and catastrophic failure. So was that it? Was this whole 4,000-year-old promise a lie? Well, not according to our source. The text argues that everyone, and I mean everyone from the ancient prophets to Jesus' own disciples, was confused because they were missing a key piece of information. They had totally misunderstood the nature of the answer they were looking for. This slide really shows the huge disconnect between what people were expecting and what the reality was supposed to be. For centuries, the text argues, people were focused on one set of prophecies, the ones pointing to a conquering king, a military victor, worldly glory, the big, flashy stuff. But they were completely overlooking a second, equally important set of clues. Clues that pointed to a suffering servant, a sacrificial ransom, and an atoning death that had to happen first. But here's the twist. The death of Jesus wasn't the end of the mystery. According to the source, it was the exact opposite. It was the master key, the one event that finally allowed his followers to start cracking this entire 4,000-year-old code. The absolute turning point, according to the source text, was the day of Pentecost. You see, Jesus had promised his confused disciples that a spirit of truth would come and guide them. And when that happened, as this slide shows, all those scattered puzzle pieces of prophecy finally started clicking into place. So with this new understanding, the disciples went back and re-examined the old prophecies, and they saw them in a totally new light. They started to realize the plan was so much bigger than they had ever imagined. It wasn't just for the nation of Israel. The text explains that first, a group of people had to be gathered from the Gentiles, so from all the other nations of the world, and only after that was complete would the final promises be fulfilled. And this brings us to the ultimate reveal, the final answer to that 4,000-year-old question that started with just a single glimmer of light way back in Eden. After 4,000 years of waiting, the source identifies the long-hidden mystery with this one really powerful phrase: Christ in you, the hope of glory. This, the text says, was the secret that was kept hidden from all past ages and generations. So here it is, the core of the whole revelation. Everyone was looking for a single person, right? A single deliverer. But the source explains that the answer wasn't one person. It was many in one. The Christ, which just means the anointed, is revealed to be a collective body, a group made up of many individual members, with Jesus himself as the head. To try and explain this pretty profound idea, the text uses three powerful metaphors, and each one shows the same truth, just from a different angle. First, the body. Jesus is the head, and believers are the members, all part of one organism. Second, the pyramid. Jesus is the perfect top stone, and believers are the living stones built up right under him. And third, the vine. Jesus is the source of life, and believers are the branches that draw their life from him. Each one illustrates this incredibly intimate union. So you have to ask, right? Why keep this whole thing a secret for so long? Well, the source gives two key reasons. First, to make sure the plan wasn't stopped. The text claims that if the powers of that age had known the full scope of what was happening, they never would have crucified Jesus. And second, it was a profound trial of faith. His followers had to prove their loyalty by sharing in his suffering long before they had any idea about the future glory that was promised. And that brings us to our final, and maybe the most important question. After thousands of years, what does it actually mean for a mystery like this to finally be finished? According to the source, this great work of preparation is nearly done. The mystery will be finished when this collective body, the anointed, is finally complete. Only then, the text claims, will the secret plan be fully revealed to everyone, and the promised blessings for the entire world can finally begin. Which leaves us with a final thought. If a 4,000-year-long secret is about to be revealed, are we ready to understand the answer?